Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. In the Assassin's Creed franchise, we've walked in the boots of what I would call the good side of history. Yet some events have caused ripple effects that have made drastic impacts to a character's life and a character's emotions. We know that the Assassin's Creed work in the dark to serve the light. But what about that moral grey area? And this is what I really want to touch upon in this episode, that in the Assassin's Creed we do have a black and white story of good versus evil. Assassins versus Templars. Freedom through control, freedom through freedom, which is a unique perspective. But to achieve the goal, assassins have to operate in a necessary evil sort of scenario, where their actions aren't inherently good, but they're not inherently bad. And an action that is not inherently evil or not inherently good is a morally grey action. It's an action where it may cause something bad, but its intentions are good. And this is something we see a lot in Assassin's Creed. And I've had great discussions in this Assassin's Creed Discord server about this topic, and there was something that came up of how assassins could assassinate a Templar from the shadows, and people won't understand why they've assassinated them, so it could become a martyr sort of effect. Now, to the assassins, working in the dark to serve the light is good, but the necessary evil of this is the outcome. The good side would be maybe going back and eliminating this person in broad daylight so everyone knows your actions and they can make an informed judgment. But in doing so, it does cause the problems that came up with Altair, which is why Altair pushed the Creed back into the shadows, because working in the light does cause problems. So the morally grey aspect is stay in the shadows to take out your target for good, but the necessary evil is that person that died could become a martyr for someone else's cause. It's a unique and probably exaggerated take, but it's a sort of vibe that I'm wanting to discuss in this show, that we do see the assassins as good, and we see Templars bad, but I believe that with the morally grey area that Assassin's working, we could explore this more in the future. One of the references I have here is an extract from the Assassin's Creed novel, The Secret Crusade, which goes, "They do not learn, fixed in the ways as they are. You are naive to think otherwise. It's an illness, assassin, for which there is but one cure. You're wrong, and that's why you must be put to rest. Am I not unlike the precious books you seek to save, a source of knowledge with which you disagree, yet you're rather quick to steal my life. A small sacrifice to save many, it is necessary." And in my opinion, this is a really big impact, because this is showing the morally grey aspect of Assassin's Creed that we all come to sort of realise by now, that their actions are not too different from the Templars. In this extract from the Crusade, you see that the Templar is trying to reason with Altair, that his knowledge, his actions are not alien to Altair, that what the Brotherhood is doing, but the way they're going about it is causing more harm than good. So it is a necessary evil for Altair to kill the Templar. But by killing the Templar, he is no worse than the Templars killing other people. Altair did have a famous quote of, "We are not quick to judge another man's opinions." Yet isn't this what assassins always do? And I know this is coming up as ironic, and more ironic than morally grey, and I believe, in my opinion, that the morally grey and irony go hand in hand with the assassins. And this is actually why I want to bring up the 3 ironies written by Altair. I'm just getting my big book. So, the first irony is, "Here we seek to promote peace, but murder is our means." Again, it is ironic, but it also falls into the category, in my opinion, as morally grey. Because you can promote peace in a good sense. You could go around with some banners, peaceful protests. There's a lot of instances where that would work. But assassins realised against the Templars, who are ruthless, power-hungry, and very smart, that the necessary evil is to murder them. because, well, that's the way to stop them. And as I said before, this action isn't inherently good, because murder isn't good. But the action isn't inherently evil, because even though the murder is evil, the intention is good. And again, it's just that morally grey. You know, the area where it's like, it's bad for murder, but it's good because you're making peace. The second irony is, here we seek the open minds of men, but we require obedience to be a master and a set of rules. And the third is, here we seek to reveal the danger of blind faith, yet we are practitioners ourselves. And I get that a lot of this is coming off as just, well, big ironies, because they are ironic to how the creed is. But at the same time, in my opinion, from all the research I've done for this topic, the ironies just show the grey area that Assassin's working. Their actions inherently can't be good. They can't just go around doing everything inherently good, because it'll never work. They have to do just something evil and ironic to make it work. So these last two creeds, the evil action is hypocrisy. They're being hypocritical about their nature. And now, hypocrisy isn't inherently good or inherently bad in this case, because the hypocrisy behind these ironies is to show that to do something right, we may have to ask for a little bit of obedience. You know, we may say, don't follow that person who's going to lead you into a bad topic. Follow us, because we lead into something better. They need that blind faith for good reasons, and that's why I'm saying that the ironies are ironic, but they're inherently not good or inherently bad. But the problem with all of this, and the morally grey area that Assassin's in, is that by now the Assassins have done so much damage in the wake of the Temple, in spite of what the Temple has done. They have garnered a reputation as chaos to Assassin's Order. Well, Templar's Order, sorry. And this is evident in a lot of the games. You know, I know we don't like them, and they're not really good guys, and a lot of their actions are bad. But the Borgia in the Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, they're not good guys. They're really bad Templars. But the Borgia do set out an order, a system that works. You know, it's like, it's their form of economy. And the morally grey aspect of this with Ezio is he has to destroy them to bring peace back to them. You know, make it more of a freedom operated state instead of a strict dictatorship on the Borgia, which is fine. But to do that, you have to murder them all. Ezio is not as good as the Templars. They kill people for their own right, and he's doing the same. But his end goal will bring peace and a better time for Italy, and it does. But when you look at the games, his actions is really not good for Italy, because at the moment, even though the Borgias are ruining Italy and doing some really bad stuff, the good action is to get rid of them, even by killing them, which killing's never good. And it's just a circle that goes around, that every action they're taking isn't inherently going to be good or evil. And I think one that I have had topics in the past with, and some people disagree, some people agree. I think the biggest morally grey area that's been evident in a game is Syndicate. And this is going to take a lot to discuss. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is that the actions of Jacob and Evie destroy industrial London. They don't really do it in the game, but in a hypothetical sense, because their inherently good reaction to free every child slave is inherently great. It's the perfect action for the game, because no child should be forced into labour in that sort of scenario. It was cruel, it was barbaric, it should never happen. But the harsh realism is that London became so used to this sort of factory work that, in theory, the assassins going in and freeing all the slaves, as they should and they needed to do, it can shut down business. And it's a really, far-fetched idea, and it's a wild theory, but it's just something I've discussed in the past, that is a chaotic action to save the lives of many for good, but the knock-on effect is that, in theory, if there's no more workers in the factory gets shut down. That's a bad reaction, but inherently your action was good. So you see where this comes into the grey area. Again, inherently evil and inherently bad. The assassins just can't win. Nothing the assassins do can inherently be always good. They always have to do something bad. Arno Dorian from Unity did, when he, and I'm not going to do the whole quote because it is very long, but he was very wise to acknowledge that the creed from the Brotherhood does teach that nothing is forbidden to us. And once I thought this meant we were free to do as we would, to pursue our ideals, no matter the cost. I understand it's when I grant for permission. The creed is a warning. Ideals too easily give way to dogma, and dogma becomes fantasism. No higher power sits in judgment on us, no supreme being punishes for our sins. In the end, only ourselves can guard against our obsessions. And this is a perfect thing where that leads on to our next big point. The assassins, as I've discussed in the beginning of the episode, are operating in a really simple moral grey of they have to do something bad to do something good, and will always work that way, and it's something that the games haven't really touched upon much. We've had typical villains of good and bad. There's never been a cause and effect to the assassins, good and bad. Nothing to show the moral grey, and something that I want to see more of. But because the Creed understands that it is operating in a morally grey area, that some people's morally grey compass kind of goes off the deep end. And in this last part of the episode, I do want to discuss two topics that show that the Assassin's Creed are operating in a morally grey, but what happens when that morally grey area becomes blurry? The line between good and bad just disappears. That's when the assassin's actions become more Templar and less assassin. And the first one I want to talk about is I'm really sorry if I don't pronounce the names right. Is Nikolai Orlov and Anastasia. Now, the reason I want to talk about these two is these two characters from Assassin's Creed I actually don't know much about. I've not heard the names, and it really took me on a wild rabbit hole down the Assassin's Creed wiki, which, off topic, I would highly recommend anyone just goes on a mad rabbit hole through Assassin's Creed wiki, because I found a lot of cool stuff in there. So the reason I bring this up is, during the entire story, Nikolai does feel like he's, not feeling it to the Assassin Order. The Assassins themselves seem a bit extreme in this case. And during one of the confrontations, Anastasia is mentally, through a weird bleeding effect caused by a piece of Eden, is mentally given the memories of Xiao Jun, the Chinese assassin, and he believes, because of the Brotherhood, he decides he's going to take Anastasia to his Brotherhood, help them fix her, help them save her life. But once he gets back to the Brotherhood, Sergei, the assassin scientist, who takes her under his wing, actually just lets it into knowledge that, because she's now classed as a living precursor artifact. Sorry, I'm not very good at reading. They wanted to extract Xiao Jun's memories from Anastasia for a process that would kill her or leave her barely human. And in my opinion, this kind of shows where Assassin's Creed has just that Brotherhood moral grey compass has just gone skew with. Because inherently good reaction will be to work with the memories, work with the human. With Anastasia, she can live a normal, healthy life, and she helps the assassins. She is suffering from a bleeding effect of Xiao Jun's memory. She'll have her skills and her knowledge. But instead, they just go to forcefully try and remove her memories that could kill her. This is an inherently evil reaction. There is no truly moral grey reaction. This is where they're taking their moral grey actions just going off the deep end. As I explained, this is an action where the blurred line between good and bad and moral grey just vanishes. They're no longer in that safety of moral grey. They're now going back to where the temples can be. And during the whole story, the assassins try and kill Nicola because he puts a stop to it. He breaks his oath of the creed and frees Anastasia. This is an inherently good action. He's saving someone's life, and its consequences, the assassins hunt him down. And in this case, it's the assassins that are the bad guys. Which is kind of a weird scenario since we're always playing them as good guys. The other big ripple in, as from I described at the start, will be Shay Patrick Cormac. Now, we all know that Shay becomes a Templar and he's the bad guy. But it's how he becomes the bad guy that is where I believe the assassins, mainly Adewale, kind of just goes off the deep end again. So, how I to explain this is why I believe this is where this has to just go off the deep end. Is that looking for a piece of Eden, the assassins accidentally cause a devastating earthquake in Port-au-Prince. Now, why this is a morally grey off the deep end approach is because the assassins believed they were doing good. They were handling a precursor artifact to get it away from Templar's hands. This is good. But their actions caused the deaths of millions of people. It was such a devastating attack, a devastating natural occurrence that could have been stopped if the assassins were patient. And this is another time where, in my opinion, from the research and playing Rogue, where the assassins were no longer, well, not really, how to word it, they're no longer in that moral grey because there is a lot more approach to this. They could have found a way to safely get the piece of Eden without causing so much devastation, but they didn't. The creed is to, one of their tenets is to stay the blade from the flesh of an innocent, but by rushing in and stealing this piece of Eden that caused the deaths of millions of innocent people is in theory breaking the first tenets. This is no longer the assassins reporting in a morally grey area. They've just gone off the deep end and become like the Templars. I don't think the Templars would be the ones to think about the cause and consequence. They would have just gone for it. And now, I'm going to spin this on its head, because I wanted to create this episode so everyone could listen to my thoughts, feelings, make their own minds up, have a great chat. I've got a Discord server, which you can find the link on my Twitter. You can message me on Twitter and everything. The final part I'm going to leave with you all is that I want more games to explore the morally grey area of assassins. That we always know that the assassins are operating this weird, morally grey, and I hope I've provided enough examples of how I believe the assassins have gone off on a morally grey area where their actions are never inherently evil or inherently bad. They're just there to make sure that to get peace through freedom is done in a way that may cause death and a little bit of chaos, but it's always for a good cause. But as I said before I started this weird tangent, I will spin on its head by asking for the fact of, what if the Templars believe they're operating in a morally grey area too? And this is, I'm not going to discuss it in this episode because I would like to get more information, but there is always the fact that the Templars believe that our actions are inherently good, but they're not inherently evil. To shape a society shape a society of law and order, of death, destruction, or mayhem, may require a stern dictatorship and a strong leadership that causes wrongful people to be imprisoned or wrongful people to be punished. To a Templar's eyes, they may see this as an inherently evil action, but for the cause of good. They are creating a civilization that is through order, no discourse, no antics, even if they have to punish a few. This action isn't inherently good, and it's not inherently evil. It's a morally grey action. And it kind of makes this episode sound redundant. Well, we've just talked about assassins being morally grey. Now you're saying Templars are morally grey. Well, this is weird. This is a weird topic, and it is because from all the chats of the Assassin's Creed Sisterhood server and I've had with other friends, the biggest topic I wanted to put in this episode is, what if the whole game's moving forward try to incorporate the idea of us questioning the actions? Are you doing everything because you have to, or are you doing things because you need to, because you know that inherently it may be bad, but its outcome will be good? We don't really see this much in games these days, and there's moments in Valhalla where Eivor's actions, just, the raiding, hunting down Templars, is inherently good, but she has no reason to cause these actions. It's like a grey area for Eivor, in my opinion. She's hunting the Templars because she knows they're bad, but she's killing them like how they're doing. She's killing them because they're killing people. She doesn't need to kill them. She has no reason to kill them, but she just does out of loyalty and honor. And it's not the same grey area as I've explained in the episode, I know, but it's a grey area that could have been deeply ingested into the series. And I believe that the games moving forward haven't necessarily added more grey area. Rogue, as I discussed with the events of Rogue and how it impacted Shade to become Templar, do show the assassins sort of a morally grey area where, well, actually no, they just went off to the deep end, because the morally grey area become skew-lift. But the other games have always been a bit black and white. Assassin's good, Templar's bad, you just do bad things for good. It's a grey area, but there's no grey impact to the story. So, it is a weird episode to discuss about, and I have a lot of crazy thoughts lately, but with how Assassin's Creed has been going, it has got me a lot thinking of the past games and how Assassin's Creed always don't operate in a black and white good and bad. They have to operate in a morally grey. And I hope that if you guys listen to this and you're really interested in the topic, please can you hit me up on Twitter at ACLetsTalk. You can also find a link to Linktree, which has my Discord information, so you can come join Discord and we can continue this discussion. If you prefer Twitter, I have Twitter. Email, you can email me also at assassinscreedletstalk@gmail.com. I would like to have more discussions about your thoughts and feelings on Assassin's Creed as a morally grey game. Well, area. Essentially what we really just discussed. Assassins perform their actions because they're not inherently good, but they're not inherently evil. It's just a morally grey balance that has to be. So thank you all for taking the time to listen. If you've got another topic you'd like to hear, or if you would like to come and join me on an episode, then feel free to hit me up on any of the information I've shared. I will give you a sneakily update that I am 102 hours into Valhalla, very close to the finish line, and soon, very soon, we'll be getting more juicy information on the endings, and I'll be giving you an update on my thoughts and feelings on the final story. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you all next week.